Hi everybody and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Rob Evans and I'm your weight loss coach, health strategist and internationally published author, helping take your life, your business, your mindset, your health and body and wellness from where you are right now to where it is that you want to be. Pardon me. And today what I want to talk about is this topic of not losing yourself. Don't lose yourself. And what do I mean by that? Well, I guess what's inspired today's topic is the US presidential debate. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, just because of the time differences in my schedule. I've caught snippets of it. I've heard the summary of what they're saying. The parts that I heard, it's like, man, people talking over the top of each other, sounded quite childish in some parts, name calling. It was just... If you didn't know any better, you would say it was two actors having a go at each other in a movie. It actually made me think about the movie The Campaign, is that what it's called? With Will Ferrell in it, and I can't remember the other guy. But that's a funny watch if you want to watch a funny movie. But it made me just think about that, where they're up at the podium and Will Ferrell turns to him and says, "Are you trash talking to me? Are you trash talking?" And it was just like that. You watch that scene and it just looked like what was happening last night. It was scary. So I don't know what the perception is over in the US with this, whether it's normal, but certainly from outsiders looking into someone else's country, you think, man, is this serious? It's just crazy, the things that they're saying to each other. It's just so not right, just not right at all. And so it got me thinking about whether you just get caught up in maybe the charisma and the fame, the fortune, the name and everything, as opposed to values, beliefs and policies, procedures, principles and that kind of stuff. And certainly from external, the news that we get here in Australia about what the decisions have been made in the US, is that the decision that Trump has made recently around COVID and everything has been a complete disaster. That's the way it's portrayed here. Now, whether that's the reality of what's going on over in the US and whether that's the general sentiment, I have no idea. The people that I talk to that live over there say, oh, well, it's not as bad in our areas, they kind of make out. What is really difficult is the fact that I'm sure he has done so much good for the country compared to anyone else. And he's made tough decisions and he says all the things that you probably want to say, but you actually never do say. But he just doesn't have a filter. And I'm sure he's done a lot of good stuff. And he speaks what's really going on. But and what's going on in his mind and like the stuff with China and all that kind of stuff. He's probably the only world leader that's saying what everybody else wants to say. But I just wonder if you get caught up in this kind of thing as well. If you're an influencer and based on the number of followers that you've got and whether you are being controversial just for the sake of being controversial. And in all of that, you're kind of losing yourself because you find yourself going down a particular path, which, maybe if something happens and you stop and you think and you realize and you say, actually, do you know what? That's not really me. That's not me. And when I was watching it last night, two completely different individuals. I don't know what qualifications that Joe Biden has got and, what sort of president that he would make. He certainly didn't come across as a strong leader yesterday. But I know certainly if they have debates here in Australia with our prime ministers and, there never seems to be any real value that comes out of these things. There really doesn't. And when it comes to politics, I look at it like this. Well, it's not just politics, but if I look at, from a political point of view, of what's going on in our local economy here. The Victorian economy is screwed and it's mainly because of decisions that's been made by the Victorian government and people are saying he's a control freak. He's doing things that are not legal and they're being taken to court and before they get taken to court, they change the policy and like curfews and all that kind of stuff. And I listened to, he had to face up to there's a hotel quarantine inquiry that's been going on here. It's just finished up. And he gave his testimony on the last day. And would you believe this, that I think out of 13 including him, I think, of 13 bureaucrats, not one of them took ownership for making the decision as to who would use private security guards. And so what's happened is, for those of you that are maybe not aware, the idea was that everybody that was returning from overseas had to quarantine in a hotel for 14 days. And rather than use like our armed forces or the police to, say, guard the premises and make sure everybody's doing the right thing, they used private security guards. And the security guards weren't given any training, and people got out. The security guards got COVID, they spread it, and 99% of the deaths and cases of COVID that have occurred during this second wave can be all the epidemiology ties back to these motels. So it's all directly as a result of that. Now, not one person in the government says that they made the decision to use security guards when the armed forces was offered by the Prime Minister as a great resource to use for hotel quarantine. Not one person, even the Prime Minister, even the Premier can't say. Now, if you listen to his testimony, you think, well, he sounds genuine. I listen to a lot of the press conferences each day and say, well, you know what, he sounds pretty genuine and almost to the extent believable. Now, is he telling the truth or not? Only he knows what the truth is, but there are some things that just seem unfathomable, that you could not know the answers to these things, and it's politics. And they tell you what they want you to hear. They don't actually give you the truth. Now, I would be prepared to give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt and say, well, they sound believable, they must be telling the truth. But there's an event that happened a number of years ago that has just shaken my confidence in anyone, and I think, do you know what? They're probably lying. And that's because of Lance Armstrong. Now, Lance Armstrong, I have him on my wall here because of his 7 Tour de France wins, and I'm not going to get into the whole drug discussion and whether that's right or not, but well, obviously it's wrong, but why he's still on my wall and everything, that's a whole other discussion. But the point is, for over 10 years, I defended him, and I said, there is no way that this man could be guilty because he's the most tested person on the planet. And if you step outside that for a moment and say, and I was saying, well, the only way that he could be guilty would be if there were so many people involved to cover this up, from scientists to people high in the UCI, doctors, team people, managers, other cyclists, other team members and whatever, and no one ever came out against him apart from Tyler Hamilton and Floyd Landis, and then it just started to just all completely implode from there. And I said, he just can't be, because it would be such a conspiracy in cycling that you just couldn't imagine it. And guess what? Yeah, it all came out that it was true, and yes, it was a huge conspiracy, and there are so many people that are involved that still haven't been named, and we possibly may never find out. But it was just a code amongst the various riders that they wouldn't say anything for over a decade. And if he hadn't have ever come back to cycling, I think that just peed everybody off, then he probably would have gotten off, but it wasn't in his nature. He wanted to compete, and he wanted to show people that he could do it naturally. And then whether he was doing it naturally or not in 2009, who knows? Who knows? Only he knows the truth around that. So because of that, I now think, do you know what, they sound believable, but because of Lance Armstrong, you know, anything's possible. Maybe they are making it all up. Maybe they're lying. So you just don't know. So I think the message here is you've got to stick by your values and your beliefs and be true to who you are. and not try and be someone else and get lost in all the, whether it's the fame, the influencing, whatever, that makes you think, well, I've got to be controversial, so I'm going to make stuff up, or you just become more distant from who you truly are. And I think if you focus more on, well, who are the people that you really want to attract here? Who do you want to attract? Just be the person that you want to be, and you will attract the people that you want to attract. I think, for instance, if you're a really, really quiet and conservative person, which is kind of a bit like me, then if you want to attract really loud and outgoing and completely the opposite to you, then you're going to struggle with that, because those people aren't going to be naturally drawn to your conversations, to your content, to whatever it is that you're doing. Like in my field, for instance, this is a trap where often I will compare myself to others, and I think, why am I doing that? Why am I comparing myself to this person? And I talk differently to other people. I'm not, well, take for instance say a young 25-year-old female that calls everybody babe and says, hey babe, and all this kind of stuff, and it's just really over the top, one of those really over the top type people. And like that's not me. That's just not me. Now she is going to attract a certain type of person because of her energy. Now I attract a different type of person. Now am I going to attract the bodybuilder that wants to go to Mr. Olympia and get super buffed and everything? No, because I'm not that person. Now I'm trying to achieve a certain look for me, but it's not that steroid-induced huge muscle body. That's not me. That's not my ideal client. The ones that are drawn to me are probably the 35 or 30 plus year old females and men that want to make a difference, probably have never stepped into the gym before, but they can relate to my journey, they can relate to maybe the way that I speak and my principles and values and everything, and they want to be involved. Like I talk about my fitness family. I talk about how you become part of my fitness family and how important that is. And I talk about my kids, and I talk about me wanting to be a better dad. I talk about relationships. I talk about money. I talk about optimizing your health forever, as opposed to let's just do something for the here and now and get you in the shape of your life, but kind of forget about your overall health. I mean, again, that's not me. That's not how I operate. So why would I teach something different to what I am? Because at some point it's not going to come naturally to you. And this is the challenge though, because sometimes you'll look at someone else and say, oh gee, I wish I had as many followers as them, or I wish I had this and this and this. But you're not that person. And if you want to be the next, Bezos or Elon Musk or whatever, I think that's a mistake, because they're different people. And, you don't know what's going on in their brain, whether it's sane or otherwise, but they are where they are because of their journey. Now, you're never going to go on the same journey as them. You're going on your own unique journey to be the unique you and be the best version of you. So I think, don't get lost in all of this. So you could see yesterday, I have no idea, like on a personal basis, what Donald Trump would be like and what Joe Biden would be like. They may be very similar people. I mean, it looks like Donald Trump is very in your face, over the top, very controlling, and it's his way or the highway type of thing. I mean, just look at his show, The Apprentice, and I'm sure that's pretty much like he is, but who knows what he's like on a personal basis. Joe Biden, he comes across as being like a softly spoken person, good morals and values and beliefs and stuff, but who knows? It could be a front. I mean, I've got no idea. But the point is, they should be who they are. And last night, what I could see was, it was like they were in a schoolyard just throwing banter at each other. And what it looked like was it came much easier to Donald Trump, because he's like, this is how I'm going to get control. I'm going to make him look weak. I'm going to look strong. And Joe Biden just looked a little bit silly because he was fighting with him and calling him a clown and telling him to shut up and do all those sorts of things. It's like, I'm sure that's not the real person. But got caught up in it all and just kind of lost himself, and who knows what the actual outcome of it all is. It all seemed like a complete disaster to me, but that's what it was. So I think the message here that I picked up is, don't lose yourself in getting mixed up in things that aren't really you. Always go back to what are your values, what are your beliefs, who is your ideal customer, who do you want to attract to you, who do you want to be working with. And I'm not saying don't change, because most people need to change to be a bigger version of themselves, a better version of themselves, but don't change your personality. Don't try and be something that you're not. Don't fake it, because eventually that's going to come unstuck. And if you be the best version of you that you can be, then you'll find that you attract the customers that you actually want to work with. So I'm probably unlikely to attract the 18, 19-year-old young girls, for instance, or guys for that matter, but the girls that are, they're talking like, hey babe, doll, going out to nightclubs and living a different kind of life that I lead. Because I'm 52, so I'm more likely to attract people that are between 35 and 55. That's where most of my people listening to this podcast right now, that's where most of the audience is, because we've all gone on a journey, and you're probably not wanting to, like if you're in your 50s, you're probably unlikely to want to listen to somebody that's talking about life and how to get better that's in their teens. Because you think, well, what are you going to know? What can you teach me about life? Because you've barely lived. But when it comes to somebody that is, say, like me, I'm 32 years working in health and fitness, the struggles that I've gone through up to this age, it's like, I can relate to that. I can see that. I went through that same thing. And so one of the reasons that I started doing my other podcast, robevans365.com, today I recorded episode 826, was because I want to become a better version of myself. And by talking each day and interviewing people and thinking about the content and just getting used to putting my thoughts forward and thinking deeply about how can I impact others, you find that you start to attract more people, because I'm thinking more about, well, who do I want to be working with? And who is really me? What do I really want to reflect? What do I want to stand for when all this is over? And so I just thought today was a good reminder to don't get lost, don't lose yourself, stay true to yourself, and attract those that you want by being who you are. I think that's a really valuable lesson. So wherever you are in the world, please stay safe. You can connect with me if you go to thementaltoughnessandbodyshow.com. You can opt in for a consultation. I'd love to connect with you and see how I can help you become a better version of you. Stay safe. See you tomorrow.